Using a cordless drill or impact driver for driving screws has become so ubiquitous that when presented with any screw of any kind, we automatically assume that we should be driving the head of the screw with a power tool. But this is not the case when you are using machine screws with nuts and washers. This happens so frequently with every new class of stagecraft students that I will likely be reposting this video regularly. You might need to take a machine screw and set it into the wood and tighten it with a bolt on the other side. This would be common if we were attaching a caster to the other side. Put your caster where it belongs and put it over here. This wood is kind of old and splitting. I'm going to mark where the 4 holes are. We know the diameter of these bolts is 1/4 inch, right? It fits into the 1/4 inch. It does not fit into the 15th, 16th bit. It will also fit into the 17/64, the next size up. One of the things that happens if you drill a 1/4 inch hole in wood, the wood is kind of expanding and contracting a little bit. It's got a lot of moisture in it. And if you drill the exact size in the wood, I guarantee that feeding this screw through is going to be a tight fit every time. If you're drilling into metal, you want to use the exact size bit because metal is less forgiving. It doesn't expand and contract. It doesn't have all the moisture content. If you drill a 1/4 inch hole in metal, it will be 1/4 inch. If you drill a 1/4 inch hole in wood, it's always going to be tight feeding your bolt through. You don't want to use a 1/4 inch drill to drill that hole. You want to use a 7/16 or possibly a 9/32. This bit is a 17/64. That's the next size up, and it's just one size after another. The fractions are crazy until you're used to it. Put in my 17/64 bit. You don't need to remember these numbers because you have this handy gauge. So you can always look at it and say, what's the next size up from 1/4 inch? It's 17/64 or 9/32. So I'm going to drill my 4 holes. And that one wanted to wander a little bit. If I wanted to, I could pre-drill a smaller hole so I don't drift. This drill bit is a little dull, and that's why it's called drifting like that. It's not staying where I want it. I've got 4 holes. They go all the way through. There's a little bit of tear out on the other side. That's also indicative of a dull blade, but it also is pretty common in the application. My caster is going to go on like this, and this is a common mistake of putting in the screw the wrong way. This type of head is designed to countersink into the wood. I can get my countersink bit and do a countersink in there like I would if I were drilling in masonite, or I can use an impact driver, and this will be like magic. I'm going to put all 4 of these in just to keep or at least 2 of them in to keep my machine in place. The other common mistake that people are going to do is that they will hold the nut with a wrench and tighten the screw with a screw bit. First of all, I'm using a number 2 screw bit, and this is a size 14 screw or 1/4 inch screw. And I need to use a number 3 bit, not a number 2. So if I use number 2, which is the one that's most common, I'm going to strip the heck out of that head. And then I won't be able to unscrew it and take it apart at strike. And second, we've got the magical impact driver with the 7/16 inch bit that fits the 1/4 inch nut. I'm going to get my number 3 screwdriver. I'm going to hold that in place. And I'm just going to tighten down. And I don't even have to countersink because the screw goes under the surface of the wood, just like that, just by holding the screw with the screwdriver. Now this one, I used an 1.5 inch screw and it interferes with my action of my caster. So what I actually need to do is I need to take that 1.5 inch screw out and replace it with a 1 1/4 inch screw. But I use the 1.5 inch screw to give me that countersink. It's a process of doing things twice, but it does work. You could also countersink your head and do it once with the 1 1/4 inch screw. It's one more tool, it's one more process, it's the same length of time more or less. Either way. If you go straight up with the 1 1/4 inch screw, you're not going to have enough threads to catch on there. And that is how you, the proper way for attaching a caster to a piece of wood. After I get all 4 machine screws set and countersunk, I'll swap out the 1.5 inch machine screws for 1 1/4 inch machine screws. I could use the 1 1/4 inch machine screw without the washer and then back the nut off after it's countersunk and then put the nut and washer back on, and it would take about the same amount of time. Or I could use a countersink bit and prepare the top of the lumber for the machine screw before installing. Again, this would take about the same amount of time as the previous 2 options. A fourth option would be to get an angle grinder and cut the excess threads off beyond the nut. But that would make the machine screw no longer reusable. Still, it's a valid approach. Choose the way that works best for you and for the project that you are doing. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time with more technical theater content.